and I get to organize just a few words. It seems like different people want to just bring a few words of memory or something about Ruth. And so I'm kind of organizing that. And I've talked to a few people, and they said, "Oh, I might want to say something, maybe." So right now my list is pretty short. So feel inside your heart a little bit. Maybe just remember. Oh, Karen. Oh, Karen's got a thumbs up. Wants a few memories for Aunt Ruth. Just let me know. But we're going to eat for a little bit, and just in maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes, we'll start with a few words from different people. All right.
I think people are ready to start.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay, right now we're going to do it right
Don't waste no time.
Should I lead off, Karen? I'm going to lead off with a story. So we heard a little bit about Dan and Ruth, how they bring hungry students to their home on Sunday afternoon to talk about, important things. Often we've gone to church and we talk about, the service. Well, of course, we get amazing food. Ruth would feed us. It was always like this amazing food. And because I was interested in Vera, that somehow got around that I was interested in Vera a lot. Ruth made a fluffy sunshine cake for me. Was it for my birthday?
It was for your birthday from scratch.
A birthday cake from scratch from Ruth, Ruth was not a big baker, right? Right.
She had her specialties.
Specialties.
It was unusual to bake a cake from scratch.
So I got a fluffy sunshine cake, and it was amazing. Never to be repeated.
Wasn't it like a brick?
No, I wasn't. It was delicious. It was perfect.
Okay.
It was perfect. The other thing that I was especially gifted, Ruth, when my birthday would come around, not always, but often, there would be a card. And a very special card. This isn't like, you go to, get that Hallmark thing and says, sign Grandpa and Grandma and stick that in the mail. No. This was very particular about things about me. Like I felt seen. I felt loved and acknowledged and seen. And I cherished those birthday cards. And I just kept them along, like I've got a board in my room, and I would just keep all those cards. And I just felt loved and known for who I am, and that's some of this. Like Ruth had a certain kind of honesty that she would be really willing to bring up and tell you exactly, and she would expect you to respond in kind, with really thoughtful. So those are just a couple of little memories of Ruth and the gifts that I received as her son-in-law. So much love and honesty that I received from Ruth. And let me, bing, Karen, you're on.
My mother is Joan, who was Ruth's older sister.
A little closer.
My mom is Joan, who was Ruth's older sister. I don't remember if he mentioned, but she was one of 5, and my mom was the first, and Ruth was the second. And we all live in Toronto, and the 4 daughters that are in our family are still in Toronto. 3 of us were able to come today, and the other one watched it live stream with my mom, who at 88 was not up for the trip to come. So my the sister who remained behind watched it with live stream with together in her nursing home. So, but my mom did prepare a little message of some memories of Ruth. So, she's like, as adults, we got along well. However, as children, we had our differences. The house we lived in was rather small for a family with 5 children. There were 2 bedrooms upstairs. One was for the little girls, all 3 of them, Mary, Susan, and Peggy. The other was for Ruth and me. It was small too. With 2 beds, a desk, and a dresser, we were rather crowded. Ruth, being Ruth, drew a line down the middle, so we each and she let me know if anything of mine was ever on her half. And then she adds just a postscript. Our parents' room was beside the kitchen, pretty crowded with 2 dressers, a double bed, and a sewing machine table. Mother made most of our clothes. As I recall, Ruth was rather hot under the collar. I feel like she was mad at me most of the time. Perhaps my rather placid nature irked her to no end. And bless her heart, she still is a very placid woman. She's very easy to get along with. She was pretty stubborn. I remember her sitting at the dining room table for at least an hour after dinner, refusing to eat her carrots, or whatever, and I was begging her to eat them. Please, at least some of them. How old were we? Perhaps 8 or 10. I was 18 months older than her. She never did like vegetables as much as I did. As I remember, our relationship improved after I returned from school in Bernathen. Then it was Ruth's turn to go down, and I think we remained friends ever after. She does a little smiley face. I will add that she, my mom, and Aunt Ruth, and a mutual friend of theirs named Gretchen Sandstrom, the 3 of them had a 3-way email chain thing, and for years they would send emails back and forth, and they would discuss all nature of things, and they were very, very good friends, and they were, so in the later years, they were quite close. We were each other's maids of honor when we married. Over the years, we never lived in the same nurture societies, but we did keep in touch. I will miss her. So, and I just wanted to add that, as speaking on behalf of my sisters, of course, we all loved Aunt Ruth, and as everyone has already mentioned, she was so welcoming when we all went down to Bernathen for school from Canada. And it was a home away from home. It was someplace that we felt very comfortable in, and it was so nice to have a relative and cousins and people that we knew that would take us in and take good care of us. That was really nice. And I just want to tell one funny story that I thought of earlier. I was a teacher, and at one point chatting with Dan and Ruth, and we were talking about the play that our school was going to put on. It was a small new church school, Washington New Church School. And she asked what play it was going to be. Now I forget the name. Arsenic and Old Lace, the one with the 2 old ladies. And she said, well, what's it about? I'm like, well, there's there's a murder. Murder? Why would you do a play about murder? Aren't you in church school? Why would you do a play about murder? I was trying to explain, well, because people like watching things. Crimes being solved, and it brings things. She just never could understand it. Murder. And this is my husband, Jim, and apparently he wants to say a couple words.
If Katie would jump line. Many things about this Dan and Ruth I've known forever. And the one thing that keeps popping back into my head is picture yourselves in a church hall like this after church, and I'm about 13 or 14. We're down in Washington, D.C. I was visiting my brother who was there. And we get the church gathering, and of course, we're all very excited about thinking there's this announcement. The pastor says, we have this announcement. I'd like to introduce a new theologue, because that was a big deal when another guy comes in and is going to come into the church, and we've got this guy's all very excited. And here's his fiancée, Ruth Parker. You were the 2 of you standing there, you remember, in Washington back, these 2 young people sitting there grinning like crazy. And I was thinking, I was there at the start. And it's been a wonderful run, Dan. It's been fun working with you and dealing with your wife, and it's been good.
And you hiked up to Medicine Wheel.
Yes, we did. We came out to see you in Bighorn, and we did the Medicine Wheel when it was snow. Remember, my hat blew down and you went and got it? I wouldn't. Yeah.
Up to 10,000 feet.
Yeah, we've done some hikes and stuff. Okay, I'm gonna hand it over.
And I would like to make a little room for the sisters. I guess it's the daughters.
Don't forget the sisters.
Sisters, come right up with that. Come on up, Peg.
Okay.
So this is the younger sister, or one of the youngest. The youngest. You're the youngest. Okay. And Peg.
Well, Ruth was so interesting. I loved the start of the sermon, just Ruth, you know. So we were 5 girls, right? There was the pre-war girls and the post-war girls. I'm the youngest of the post-war. My dad was away for 5 years in India. He said that. But where was I going to go?
Catch your breath.
So we were mostly good little girls. I mean, we had this British family. I don't know really what my parents' mom and dad were like, but it was probably not a warmest, fuzziest, gooeyest family around. It just wasn't the culture, you know? So, you know, Joan went off to Bernathen when everybody expected. Bernathen was the church school that a lot of church families sent their kids away as a junior. Joan did it, and the way you would expect, but no, not Ruth. Ruth, you know, we know she loved the truth. I remember Dan telling me before they were married that the thing he loved about Ruth was her love of the truth. I thought, whoa. Anyway, but back then she was the rebel. She would not go to church. She would not go to Bernathen. She did what she did. And then all of a sudden she was, well, I don't know all of a sudden, but as I got to know her more as an adult and as Dan's wife, she loved the church with all her heart, you know, and I never really thought about that, but we had a family reunion in Wyoming, and one of the things I remember Ruth telling me is she had a conversion experience. And you would know better than I, Dan, but she read like True Christian Religion, which is one of the books of Emanuel Swedenborg. She stayed up all night and her life has changed. And, you know, I didn't know that. Here I was 48 by the time I knew that. So that's one great thing. And I have other things, but I think that's enough. Oh, another thing, they used the word at the very end of brilliant angel. And for me, like the last 5 years of her life, especially when she saw me, her face was brilliant. I mean, she made me feel like I was the most loved person in the universe. So I'll miss that.
Thank you so much, Faith. Any daughters want to come on up? I know is Vera wanting to say anything?
I could.
Vera could. Mary's thinking about it. Lamar? There's space for you. And you. And here comes Vera.
It really is incredible to have you all here. Thank you so much for being here, all of you. And I meant to prepare a little bit more, because for me, Mom was a complicated relationship, and I'm deeply grateful for the sort of that last year and a quarter that we had together, where, you know, some of her, she suffered with dementia for sure, but she was still herself at times, and there were really special things that happened in that last year and a quarter, which David alluded to a little bit. It was really hard, the decision to have her move to the Barris cottages. We were pretty traumatized as a family and second-guessed ourselves all the time. And I was looking for the slideshow, I was looking at the photos, and the photos tell it all, because there's these pictures of her just sort of sweet and gracious and loving, and then there's these pictures of her kind of looking like a terrified 3-year-old. And I don't remember, it was during the week where the family was gathered, that she suddenly she had a very lucid moment. You know, sometimes she's confused, not knowing what's happening, and then there was this very lucid moment. She told me a story, and she said, Dan, I gotta tell Dan this story. And I quickly got I audio recorded her telling the story again, and I kind of wanted to bring it here and actually play you the audio, but I think it would have been a little too much. Yeah. But if grandkids or sisters want to hear her voice telling the story, you can. And I transcribed it yesterday. When you're knitting, when I'm knitting and the pattern gets really complicated, I keep thinking it's going to turn out wrong. The wrong number of stitches in the wrong place and everything. And then I keep hearing Glenn Matthews, who was their square dance caller. Glenn Matthews saying, trust me, as he got the calls all mixed up. Dan and I would be square dancing, and Glenn would be calling and screwing everything up, and we'd be going all in every direction, no idea what's happening. And he'd say, trust me. And then it would turn out you ended up in exactly the right place.
Tian.
I just have a few things to say about the last year also, because I think Cindy and Sally are both gone, but you know, the move to Barris Cottage was just enormous for our family, and it taught me such a lesson, and I think Mom taught me this lesson. She kept saying, you know, why am I still here? What purpose could there possibly be? And I always felt like I know there's purposes, but you know, I can't necessarily articulate them in this moment. But this one, in retrospect, is so clear to me was that, you know, it just felt like the end of the world to have Mom go to assisted living. And what actually happened was this really wonderful year of growing up in all ways. I think I grew up, I think Mom grew up, Dad grew up, all of the sisters, we all just grew in really different ways. And we also really, because when Mom and Dad moved here, I'm like, Two Harbors is the best. Like, you gotta just get in with everything. But you know, I know you're still here, Dad, but they're but once you're in your mid-70s, it's pretty late to move to a new place, right? And yet, the way everyone in Two Harbors, and especially my church family here, but everyone would just really embrace Mom and Dad in any way they could be part of this community. And then that really manifested once Mom moved to Barris Cottage. And I just, there was one time when we were doing the gospel jam and the third Friday supper, and Sheila went and got Jean and Ruth and brought them, and Dad was playing, and everyone, I just, the fact that I was able to do my work, and a neighboring angel named Sheila Lighty would bring my mom, and it was just, and there's been so many things like that. So many of you have visited Mom at Barris, and I don't know, I just want my family and friends from afar to understand how wonderful Two Harbors has been, and just to really thank, and Karen and Bill and Doug. Doug is the one who really made the move when we had to move Mom into hospice just a couple weeks ago, and just so many people. And there I was thinking it was the end of the world, and it was really just the beginning of this wonderful new chapter. And so I just want to remember that for future when you feel like it's the end of the world, right? So that's what that was.
So, there's Mark. I was going to keep you for a closer, my friend. Okay, we've got two sisters.
right, I'm Lamar, I'm the youngest of the 4 sisters. So it's been said a lot that Mom didn't always believe in herself. And I was thinking about how it was actually Katya, a radio DJ here in Two Harbors. And this week she played a song of Nathan's, whom you all heard this morning playing, or this afternoon. And that's when I realized that even though Mom didn't always believe in herself, she always believed in us, and that extended to the grandkids as well. And I think that extends further and beyond. And David mentioned today that looking for the good in others was core to her, and I actually can't think of a single time when she didn't do that, when she just saw something other than the good in others. I mean, she would see negative, but she always would look at it in the best light possible. That's what I want to share.
Thank you.
I thought possibly there might be someone from the Two Harbors community that there's a lot of family here. We just don't know you that well. And if there's anybody who just wants to bring a memory of something from Ruth, great. That's what I was looking for.
I'll see if I can do this without shedding a tear. But
No, crying's the best. I'll be here with you.
Hold the mic up.
all right.
Closer.
I only met her a couple of times. Almost all of you, I'm sure, knew her much better than I did. But playing music with Dan and Katya for the residents at the Barris House was quite a joy. And usually when you meet somebody a couple of times, you don't really, it doesn't have a major effect on you, but I was playing guitar and the fiddles were out in the living area, and me and the percussionist were kind of back in the corner, and Ruth said, and she turned around and looked at us, she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm blocking you guys," And my self-deprecating humor, which is my favorite kind, I said, "That's okay, we're better heard than seen." Instantly, she goes, "You are beautiful." She was a beautiful lady. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Being seen. Wow, thank you. Anyone else want to come from the community? Okay.
Hi, my name is Jillian Bedford, and my husband and I live up in Bemidji, the very northern part of Minnesota. And the very first winter after we moved there, Dan and Ruth came all the way to our house from Two Harbors, drove and blessed our house. And I remember Ruth saying to me, "You remind me of your mom." And it was the nicest thing she could have ever said, because my mother had died when she was 46, so I couldn't remember her very well. And she would just be a kind of like a mother-like figure to me. And every time I saw her, she would say that. She would say, "I liked your mom, and I like you too."
I'll follow. I'm her daughter, Michelle, and I was planning on coming up, but to say sort of what Mom said, so that's really special. So we've been family friends for 3 generations, which I think is really special. So Dan and Ruth were friends with my grandpa Bob and Mary Ann. And then when Mary Ann, as my mom mentioned, passed when my mom was 16 years old, you guys were also friends with my grandpa Bob's second wife, Margaret. And Ruth loved to speak French with both, I think, Marianne and Margaret. So every time Amara and I would come over to Two Harbors, Ruth would want to try her French with us. But we both learned Spanish. And I was always so grateful to Ruth and Dan for so many reasons, and the family, the extended family, which is family. You guys are family to me. And I have two different things I want to say. I'm trying to figure out which order I want to go in. But the order I want to go in is taking off of what Mom said with that connection with Ruth about your mom. Being Mom's daughter, I was always grateful to Ruth for sort of like a motherly figure in a way for my own mom. And just that lineage connection of knowing Marianne and holding that space for you is special for me to witness that. And the second thing I was going to say is that my parents they didn't get engaged, but they decided that they wanted to get married on a backpacking trip with Dan. So our families are so interconnected in very special, meaningful ways, and I've always been grateful for that and for both of you.
Bob and Dan own the sailboat together. Is that right, Dan?
Yes, we did. It was a lightning.
A lightning.
Yeah. First time we.
Do you want to come up here and say a few things, Dan?
Just a few.
The lightning that Bob Gladish, Jillian's dad, and I owned was that was fairly short-lived. It was made of wood, and when we first took it out into the Delaware River, we suddenly realized there's really quite a lot of water coming in. We were just barely able to get it back to time and get it on the trailer to pull it out of the water. And then the police also came because we didn't have the proper license or something. This is Philadelphia, not Pennsylvania. My heart and my head are way too full to say very much. I do want to just say something about Ruth's conversion experience. That was before I knew her, and she was a rebel as a younger person, and definitely. And the first 2 years when she went to junior college at what's now Bernathen College, our church college near Philadelphia. And then she got her degree in French at University of Toronto, bachelor's degree. And it was around then that she was having her real struggle. What am I going to do? And who am I? And she was having a hard time with herself and just feeling very spiritually uncertain, lost, naturally uncertain and lost, and not very clear. And she was living at her Aunt Ruby's, Ruby Zorn, who was the sister of her mother in Toronto. And I know that was an important time. And she did have a conversion time. And I did include reading True Christian Religion a lot. But it didn't happen all at once, and it went over a period of several months, and she came to realize she wanted to be doing things for other people and to learn more about God and about spiritual things. And at the end of that, she came back as, I forget who was talking. David, I guess it was David, yes. Then she did come back to Bernathen College and learned to be a teacher. And that's where I met her, and we went on from there. And she feels that was very good because meeting me and me meeting her, we felt that the Lord gave us to each other. Okay, that's enough on that. My heart is full. Thank you all for coming. It's very nice to see you all and many others who have come so long. He came just today from Philadelphia, adopted by Gordon and Joan Jorgensen.
Let me say something. My wife said to not cry.
It's okay.
My name is Seung-won Baek from South Korea 36 years ago, and then I spent 1.5 years in Toronto. At the time, I met my brother Steve and then sister Vera. At the time, also, I met my Canadian mom and dad. I was on the street. Yes, I was in the school, University of Toronto, studying English and I tried to go to medical school. But they said, Seung-won, you cannot come to the medical school because you are Korean. You are not a Canadian. You do not have a green card. I said, okay. So one Sunday, after Sunday service, and always the mom and dad Jorgensen took me to home and then give a lunch. And because I have to go to work in the convenience store, and then dad said, Seung-won, are you okay? Oh, I'm okay. No, you are not okay. What is going on? And I said, oh, so I told him. He said, what do you want? I said, I have many dreams since I was 7 years old, but nothing happened to me. I'm still looking for. What do you really like to do? I want to spend just 10 years on the campus, study politics, history, religion, science, everything. Then he said, then go to Bryn Essen College. Where's the Bryn Essen? I cannot pronounce it, Bryn Essen. That is the Philadelphia area. Where's Philadelphia? Pennsylvania. Oh, United States, yes. So he said, Seung-won, you can go, and do you want to go? I said, yes. Anyway, so I got the accepting letter from college, and then I went U.S. consulate office in Toronto to get the student visa to come to America. So my dad, Jorgensen, gave me a small envelope. Just in case, take this letter. If you need, you can give it to the consulate officer in Toronto. I said, yes. So in the morning, 4 o'clock, I went to the Toronto, the downtown. So wait 4 hours, so cold, that's on end of November. And then so finally 8 o'clock, so I met the consulate officer. I said, you cannot go to America. What do you mean? I got the acceptance letter from the college, and then I have my Korean passport, and then, but you need more document. Who can guarantee for your education? My parents in Korea, they can support me. I cannot say I work in the campus. I cannot say that. But you need more. Okay, so I have something. What do you have? So I give it to envelope. So you look at, you say, Mr. Beck, if this is the really fake letter, you are in trouble. No, my Canadian dad gave it to me. I don't know what is inside the letter. And they said, can I call him? So he called to my Canadian dad, Gordon Jorgensen. And then he said, okay, Mr. Beck, I will approve. Tomorrow morning, go to Korea, Seoul, and then go to US Embassy, they'll make you your visa, and then back to the America. And he said, by the way, I have been working as a consulate officer 13 years. I never see like this kind of things. And then, what did he say? He said, Mr. Jorgensen said, if this gentleman has any problem in America, financially or legally, I will guarantee. That's what he said. And then, thank you. So, when I came to America, I met the Ruth, because Ruth is Joanne's sister. I called Ruth as mom. And also, sometimes she said, Seung-won, as you know, I missed my son, so I have to consider you as my son. Yes! He said, Seung-won, never give up. You come to America to study. You have to finish doctorate program. It doesn't matter, within 10 years or 15 years, 20 years. So I took 30 years. So when I got the doctorate degree, then I went to Toronto. At the time, my dad passed away, so I dedicated to my mom, Jorgensen. And then so, at the time, I called to my whole family. 2 moms saved me mom Jorgensen and then mom Goodenough. So this is my thank you.
I think maybe some grandchildren have some words.
It's gotta be one grandchild.
I think Maya said she had
Yeah, I can say something.
Oh.
straight from California.
Can everybody hear me?
Barely.
Hello?
There.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Maya, Mary's daughter and Ruth's granddaughter, and as you may have heard, I live on the West Coast. So my last few conversations with Grandma took place via FaceTime. And there was one topic that she particularly was very interested in, which was my job. And for those of you who don't know, I work at a law firm. I'm an assistant to an attorney, but Grandma, up until the very end, was convinced that I was a lawyer. And she was so proud of me that I was doing a career that allowed me to help people, and she was always just proud that I was a lawyer and I was helping people. And now, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I am applying to law school, and I just hope I can take some of that inspiration from her to help other people and hopefully continue to do that throughout my career.
Okay, we got Raj, come on down.
Come on down, is this the Price is Right?
Yes. The grandchild is right.
I'm Raj, I'm Mary's son, also one of the grandkids, also from the West Coast. I have a couple of things to say. I'll try not to ramble too much, but I've been thinking a lot about the order that I was going to say these. So I think I'm going to go in reverse chronological order. I think this was the only time I ever emailed Grandma. I was emailing with Grandpa Dan about some of the logistical stuff about my education, and it's like, for me, it's like, I think like 3, 4 in the morning, something like that. And then I get an email that says, "Hi from Grandma too." I think this was in the past year, and so she just wanted to hear some details about like what my day-to-day was like and how I was doing, and just hear from me. And so I just stayed up late and thought about what I wanted to say, and wrote a long email about how life was, because I hadn't seen her in a while, and I sent a picture, and I really remember that. And then I also want to talk about a really funny experience I had with her. I don't remember exactly when this is, but we did a road trip to Ann Arbor for James's funeral, and we were all cramped in the car, a little bit miserable to be honest, but we had a lot of opportunity to talk, and we talked about all sorts of things, and eventually we were playing 20 questions and guess who, something like that, and Grandma was having us guess Santa Claus. And this became a very controversial, because we asked the question, is this person from a book? And she said, yes. And then we spent like more than half an hour failing to guess. Because in my mind, in our minds, Santa Claus is not from a book. But Grandma was like, there are plenty of books about Santa Claus. Santa Claus is in many books, so he must be from a book. And so we didn't agree on that. I also remember on that car trip, and not just on the trip, but a lot of other times, she would always talk about the importance of reading. And at the time especially, I thought all this literature stuff was very pretentious. And all the French stuff too. French is a very pretentious sounding language if you don't speak it. But as I've gotten older, I've definitely come to see some of the wisdom in that, and the importance of thinking and being learned. And you know, I still don't agree on everything. Santa Claus is not from a book. But being here and being able to see other people's perspective on her, because you know, I'm only able to see her as my grandma, but hearing other people talk about her, I'm able to see different perspectives that I never knew before. And hearing about how important she found raising her kids to be independent and to think a lot, that was really special to me, because that's something that I try to do myself. I don't have any kids, to be clear. But I think that thinking and making good decisions and thinking about things a lot is very important. And so it's really special to me to see that who she was and the life that she lived ripples out not just to her kids, but across multiple generations. Thank you.
I'm Nathan, another one of the grandkids, Steve and Vera's son, the oldest of the grandchildren. There were two things. So the first one, jumping on what Maya was saying. So Maya was talking about how Grandma was convinced that she was a lawyer already. Similarly, she was convinced I was a professor. She's been convinced I'm a professor for probably the past 3 years at least. And she always said how she just wished she could be in my class that I was teaching. And I was like, well, I'm not actually teaching classes yet. I'm a TA, so. But anyway, I am teaching a course for the first time in the fall. But it just speaks to just how much she believed in us. I think that's really what it was. Like, she just knew we were gonna become good and we were going to fulfill our purposes, and she just was so certain of that. She could already just see it. It was already true for her. And the other piece, I think, that was kind of important for me. So I'm doing my PhD in philosophy. So asking big questions. This was something that Grandma actually really did as well. She would often ask these huge, like sort of out of nowhere, she would ask a question, and it's almost all you could do was laugh, because it's like, this question is impossible to answer, Grandma. But she would take it extremely seriously and sort of like demand that we think about these questions and sort of wouldn't really take our laughter as an answer. And so I think this probably, somewhere along, I'm sure it did have an effect on me. And here I am now, still asking these big questions. Hopefully I'm going to finish my degree next year. But I'm hoping that Grandma is going to show up in this class that I'm teaching in the fall. She just couldn't stay away. I think that's the whole business. That's all.
Amber? Yeah, okay. Here we go. And then why?
I wrote a few notes because it will help me. Another grandkid. Yeah. So I wanted to share something that happened for me upstairs today. It was while Nathan was playing piano, which I've been lucky my whole life to get to lie under the piano while he plays, especially at times like this where the music really flows through him. And I had my eyes closed, and I had this, that kind of sense of, it was because I had seen the picture of Grandma as we walk in the door. I gave her a kiss on the cheek. And then I was just it moved me, so I was kind of cracked open, and his music also moves me. And I just could hear Grandma's voice, the way that she would greet me, whether on the phone or after it had been a long time. Just that, oh, Amber. Just that huge love, that big love, like that all-embracing universal love, God's love, however you want to call that. That was really sweet. Thanks, Grandma. just want to share kind of a funny, like a series. Grandma had really wonderful correspondences with us grandchildren, and when I was really little, I loved social needs. I had a lot of social needs. I wanted to socialize a lot. There's a lot for my parents, I'm sure. And so one of the things that my grandma would do is she would read me stories on cassette. She would record it. And I had this little tape deck where I would listen to them and then record back. We would just chat to each other and mail these little cassettes. And so this was my practice. And so I was sometimes just like listening to some other cassette on my little cassette thing. And then I started recording. And so we have this tape, which the music is playing, and then I don't know if it was me talking or Grandma talking, but it's like, oh, blah, 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 over top of the regular music.
And then it says, uh-oh,
And then you had mentioned her amazing cards. She would collage these cards. Oh, wow. I wish I had figured out to bring one, but...
She cut out magazines.
Yeah.
She'd go through magazines month after month and collect the END and add that into something to say to you.
Yeah, like individual letters, phrases, words that kind of, a collage about you. Yeah. And they were so cool. I remember my favorite word on it was zinger! Zinger. Peg, zinger. And then her emails in the last couple of years, I would just send almost like text messaging as a way that I could just kind of pop in. And they got really good. You know, sometimes they would disappear, so you might not hear back. But then we figured out how to keep them so she could see them. I'm not sure if I can think of one in particular, but that was really sweet. Yeah. I think I'll leave it there.
So we just got one or two more. Go ahead, Wyatt.
Hey, so I'm Lamar's eldest, named Wyatt, from Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania is pretty far from Wyoming and then Minnesota. But that distance barrier was no match for Grandma's desire to be involved in my passion. So yeah, and at the high school in Granathan, A&C, there's a pivotal moment for every sophomore where they must decide French or Spanish. And when I was a sophomore, I didn't know much, but I knew that Grandma spoke French, so that's what I picked. And after about a year of study, I was not much better than I had started off. But Grandma was very excited to do a FaceTime with me, and I sure stumbled. There was very little exchange of information, but there sure was a lot of love on the other side of the phone. And so a couple of years I studied French. I studied junior and then senior, and then through college. And I've not finished college, through the 2 years of college which I've completed. And as a result of this study, I was accepted into an internship program in France.
Oh my God.
Nice.
And I actually had the chance, right before I left, to do a FaceTime call with Grandma about 2.5 months ago. And that conversation, I'm happy to say, was equally full of love and much more information. So that's my quick story, and we love Grandma.
As Jen comes up, I just want to bring forward Dan's sister Liz Goodenough, who wasn't able to be here, but you're just so similar to Ruth, how much love she has for the grandkids and just wants relationship with you guys. We almost picked her up on the way here, and she was just on fire. She just wanted to be in that car with you and having those conversations. You're just so important that way. And Jen.
I'm Jen. I'm Joan's youngest, so yeah, we went through that before. This is bringing up lots of memories for me too. I chatted French with Aunt Ruth as well. We emailed back and forth, ma tante and I. And I also, on Sunday evenings, we got into the habit of playing categories via Zoom with my mom and Aunt Ruth and Aunt Peg and Aunt Molly and a couple other friends too. And I feel like it was great fun to play that game, and it was great exercise for the gray matter. And Aunt Ruth, bless her, she's a character when it came to categories, because she didn't really want to be playing categories. Sometimes she was happy to do that, but oftentimes she just felt like she didn't want to play. Couldn't we just talk instead? Or when we would come up with different answers for the categories, she frequently felt that there needed to be a judge. Could we have a judge? Who's going to judge this? I told her, I mean, I can be the judge, but I'm warning you, I'm going to accept pretty much any answer, so I'm not going to be arbitrary about this. And yeah, it's sometimes like if the category was television, and for example, if the letter was R, she would say something like, ridiculous. Or if it was commercials or something, I feel like a category might be commercials or advertising, and for example, if the letter was S, she would say stupid. It's just a character that way. But also, the other big reason I wanted to come up here was because I was in communication with Aunt Mary, who couldn't be here today. So she's the middle-born of the Parker girls. Unfortunately, we didn't get much written down for her to share. And the one thing that came to mind for her was, and this is quoting Aunt Mary, she says, "I remember the way she looked in her school tunic. It was above her knees." And she was so beautiful. And so Mary's daughter, Amy, is writing this and saying that she finds it so touching the way her mom, Mary, talks about it. You would think she was describing a movie star. It tells you a little bit about her mom, Mary, as an adoring younger sister. So just love out to the Grubb family too, who's not very highly represented here at all. And also to the Mansbach family, who's not here. But definitely a big part of Aunt Ruth's life, and I'm sure they wish they could be here and have very fond memories of Aunt Ruth as well.
Hi, my name is Cedar. I'm Mark and Katya's daughter. And so for the first part of my life, my grandma lived in Wyoming, so very far away. But she had a very strong, like everyone has said, a very strong desire to be in touch with all of her grandchildren, who were quite literally all over the country. And so the way we would do that, because my mother was very adamant against screens, was we would write letters. And so we have, which now I'm very grateful for, because we have a record of all these letters that my grandma and I would write. And even when I was very little and had terrible handwriting, she would speak to me as if I was an adult and write me these long letters, which I loved so much. And then they moved to Two Harbors, and so I got to have kind of a different relationship with my grandma, where I would see her every day. But what I remember is every time that we would walk in, she would just look so delighted to see us. And just had the biggest smile and this very special way of saying hello that just made you feel like so special. And she would always invite us in for tea, and we'd sit down and just talk about whatever we were doing. And she was always just so interested. And so later on, a lot of people have mentioned speaking French. Well, I chose the Spanish route, but she was undeterred by that too. And
very excited that I was learning a language. And so one time she said, speak to me in Spanish and I'll see if I can understand. And so I would start talking to her in Spanish, and then she would respond back in French and would like understand what I was saying, even though she did not speak Spanish. But she had such a strong mind for that, for language, which is, I did not have that, so I was very, very impressed. And towards the end of her life, she really didn't remember that much. She didn't like remember what most of us were doing or like where we were, but she always remembered who we were, and she had that exact same just light up smile whenever we would walk into the Bear's house or her house. And that never left, even the last time I saw her, which was about a couple months ago. And that just made all her grandkids, it made everyone that she knew just feel so special. So.
I think we're bringing it home here. Mary has a couple words, a little bit.
You're all very patient.
Yes. I'll try to. I'm Mary. Is it audible?
Yeah.
Okay. A lot's been said about how Mom was a rebel or a trailblazer or just so strong and defying and exceeding expectations. And I just wanted to share a little bit about the last hour of her life on this earthly plane, because I had the honor of being with her at that time. And so she had just had an exam with the hospice nurse, and she was pretty much out for it, sleeping, not really too conscious. But then the nurse left, and then Sally, the staff at Barris, came in, and all of a sudden Mom was a little bit more alert and like, it's time for lunch. It's time for lunch. So Mom wanted to go have lunch. And Sally had saved chicken skins for her. It had been fried chicken for lunch. And Sally knew that Mom loved fried chicken skins. So even though it was an hour after they usually have lunch at Barris Cottage, Sally had, beautifully made this plate of chicken skins and corn and mashed potatoes and gravy on the side for Mom. So I helped Sally get Mom into the wheelchair. We wheeled her out there, and she, on the way in there, she started saying, is it Thanksgiving? And it was a little, we'd been talking about chicken. Well, and I told her Lamar was coming. And, well, where's everybody coming? Where's all the people? And so we were just kind of going with it and saying, well, we can get a chicken, mashed potatoes, we'll have a feast, sure. And then so we took her, wheeled her to the table, and she sat there for a while, and she was really having a hard time actually getting the fork in her mouth, and she did manage to get a little piece of chicken skin in her mouth, and I was like, please don't choke on it. Because we had already been like warned not to, like she had to crush pills in water, and like be careful how you sit her up to drink water. So she managed, and she was really just determined to like get a bite of food on her own. And finally, there's one other funny thing too. So I do like fried chicken skins too, and I grabbed a little piece and I took it, and then she kind of looked at me and I was like, I'm sorry. I should have asked, I'm sorry. And then she was still trying to eat, and so I offered to help, and she, so I got her like a bite with a couple kernels of corn and gravy on it, and she just couldn't close her mouth on the spoon. And I was, at that point, I was kind of like, okay. And then she said, who's here? And I said, who is here? She said, there's a woman sitting on my right. And there was not anybody that I could see. I said, is it
Susan, your sister, is that your mom? And she just, said no. And then so I said, well, I think let's go have a nap now. So, and then her comment was, but it's rude to leave before all the guests arrive. And it seemed clear to me at that moment that she was in some kind of in-between worlds.
Wow.
And it seemed like in keeping with what also has been said about, all the people that she hosted for all those years, for all those dinners, that, she would be, thinking about other people and what other people wanted. Well, she was getting ready for the great feast. And of course, we didn't know that was going to be, her last time sitting at table, and that it was like less than an hour actually, or exactly an hour.
Wow.
Before she drew her last breaths.
Whoa.
But so in her passage as well, she defied expectations and norms, if there can be considered such a thing. So just wanted to share that.
Wow.
Mark, you gonna bring us home here?
Yes. All right, so it's been quite a trip down memory lane for me listening to all of these stories. And so, as my daughter Cedar was saying, there was visiting Grandma and Grandpa in Wyoming, and then, Dan, how many years has it been now?
11.
11 years ago, they moved to Two Harbors, a block away from us. And so when your in-laws move a block away from you, that can be a really good thing or maybe not. And, but I'll say that it's been, a blessing and the best thing for my family that could ever have happened. And so our girls got to grow up and develop a relationship with their grandma and grandpa that, a lot of grandkids don't get to do. And, almost every Saturday night for the last 10 years, we've all had dinner together, hamburgers and fries. And, and lots of things, are talked about there. And most of it has been really good. And I want to say, though, that, when Vera said, relationships can be complicated, I would say that was true for this relationship in the last couple years, when Ruth started to decline. And because the Ruth that we knew, 5 years ago, was not the Ruth really that we knew the last few years. And I could understand that, when Ruth would say certain things, it was not Ruth talking, it was the disease talking. And to try to explain that to our daughters got difficult sometimes when certain political things were happening in the country and that sort of thing. But throughout all of that, it really is true. Whenever you walked into a room, to say hi to Ruth, it was, if you were having a bad day, go see Ruth. Because she's gonna say, you must be famous. and so anyway, yeah, it's been quite a journey, and we homeschooled our kids too, for up until they were like in 6th and 9th grade, and so again, we had lots of connection with them through that, and then coming to sporting events and babysitting, and feeling that security of, if anything, we needed someone in a minute, we could just call, Dan and Ruth, and that's a priceless thing, and I'm just so happy that we were able to experience that. And then I just want to finish with saying that, so Ruth really did put a lot of stock in vocabulary and grammar. And being, coming from kind of a somewhat rough family, I got 5 brothers and a sister. And I'm like the only one who wasn't arrested growing up. So anyway, I think Steve and I were, yucking it up one day in their house in the living room or something, and Ruth wasn't even involved in the conversation. She was over at the kitchen table doing something, and I think I swore, and just out of the blue she goes, "Profanity is the crutch of the inarticulate."
Unfortunately, I'm still quite inarticulate, and so it doesn't work out so well for me. You have one last thing to do before you all head on to the rest of your days. There's way too much food over there. Mark is not going to be happy if he has to eat all that food. So you all need to eat that food before you go. And, thank you so much for coming.